Hello again, everybody, and welcome to the Northside 9. Inside 4-star Chicago sports today. We have the trade deadline. Does Jed Hoyer deserve an extension? Did he drop the ball on this season, or can he still make up for it? We got some midseason awards, and of course, we'll take a look ahead and take a look down on the farm and see what's cooking for the Cubs' future right after this. Oh, I lost the video. Technical glitches are always fun to start a warm Saturday after a Cubs debacle. So, nonetheless, let's get rolling because we got a lot. We're going to cover first, second, third, and we're going to slide into home here today. We got a lot of ground to cover. But before we get started, I wanted to send a happy birthday out to one of my favorite Chicago Cubs of all time, the 90 hits king, Mark Grace. Happy birthday, brother. Love you. And I'm glad you got your World Series in Arizona. And on top of that, on a sad note, going through a long collection series of baseball cards that I've been collecting, I happen to have a 1983 Ron Washington rookie card. And I want to send a heartfelt thoughts out to him and his family. He is going to miss the remainder of the season for a condition that they are not revealing to the press. It does seem pretty serious. So hopefully Ron Washington at some point next year can return to the Angels bench. But until then, Godspeed, and I hope you recover, Mr. Washington. Okay, on to our next spot, which, well, we're Kyle, I don't really know where to go, but let's just start off here. At the very tail end of the show, because I'm a huge Jim Deshaies fan, I'm going to show some Jim Deshaies' genius from the game against the Cardinals tail end when he pretty much called what was going to happen with Dansby Swanson and Pete Crow Armstrong coming home. It was pretty awesome. Little clip. We'll get to that in a little bit. We got some big news, though. The Cubs lead is shrinking in the NL Central. It is down to 2 games. And Kyle, I'm going to get to you, but I just got a question. If the Cubs were on a hot streak, the lead was down to 2, would everyone be happy? But since we're in the midst of a 500 streak, the 2-game lead seems a little thin. People are upset because the Brewers and Cardinals weren't supposed to be this good this year, but they're both just well-run organizations. And, they don't ever seem to rebuild. They stay competitive. Where are your thoughts right now, Kyle, with this lead slimming in the Central so quickly?
Well, as a Cubs fan, I'm not really worried about what the Milwaukee Brewers or St. Louis Cardinals do. I mean, the Chicago Cubs still have a 2-game lead in the division. If they want to win the division, they control their own destiny. They're in first right now. All they have to do is stay in first, and that's up to them. If they win more games than the Cardinals and Brewers, they'll be in first by the end of the season. Problems I have are with the Cubs because there's obviously numerous holes on this roster. I mean, first and foremost, people keep talking about this team being a World Series team. Listen, I love Matt Shaw, and I think the development is there. I think he's going to be a star at some point in his career. But let's face it, guys, you guys are trying to groom one of the most important positions in baseball in the midst of a World Series run. You just don't see many teams in the World Series who are like, oh, and by the way, our third baseman's in his rookie season hitting 140. Like, you just don't see that very often. I love Matt Shaw, and I'm going to be patient with him, and I think he's going to be a very good player. But it's not ideal to be grooming your third baseman in the season in which you're claiming to chase a World Series. I mean, if this team had Alex Bregman, they'd be a much better baseball team. It's just the facts, guys. It has nothing to do with Matt Shaw. I like the guy a lot. It takes a long time to get used to the major league speed, and that's what Matt Shaw's doing. Unfortunately, once again, we're talking about the timing of this team. I don't know if anybody's been watching, but in the last, 12, 14 starts, the Cubs pitchers are giving up home runs like it's going out of style, and to teams that don't hit a lot of home runs. I mean, the Cardinals came in as one of the least powerful teams in baseball, and if you watched them against the Cubs in the first 2 games, you would think they were the home run leaders in baseball. I mean, if I had to rank this rotation right now as it sits, without adding anybody to the trade deadline, I'd have them in the bottom 10 of the league. I think the starting rotation, especially with, I mean, you have to look at the rotation without Shota Minaga. Now that he's back, it definitely gets better, but they're still near the bottom. And if they went to the playoffs right now with this rotation, they would be the worst rotation in all of the baseball playoffs. Not even a question about it. So even if they went and add a guy like Sandy Alcantara or somebody else who's been inconsistent this season, so you can't rely on Sandy Alcantara to come to Chicago and be like their saving grace and be perfect, because he's probably going to have struggles here just like he has in Miami. To me, that's just not enough to get the Cubs over the hump to win a World Series. So Jed Hoyer's got some huge decisions to make. If they actually want to chase a World Series this season, he's going to have to add more than one piece. It's going to have to be 2 or 3, Sean.
We're going to get into this trading for some pitchers here in a minute. I did want to touch on Matt Shaw. And, you know, for me, I'm the king of development, and I'm the king of letting these players play out, you know, and for the average Cub fan out there that doesn't understand where Matt Shaw is. Matt Shaw is still 3 years younger than the average AAA player right now, you know, and it does seem like his swing decisions lately have been a little bit rougher for someone who's been historically good in that department throughout his career. It does kind of feel like he's fighting himself mechanically just a little bit. And not to mention, if you notice, this new toe tap thing, and he's raising his front foot and tapping it before he swings. I don't know if it's just something I noticed over the past couple of games with Matt Shaw. But again, 3 years younger than the average AAA player. I'm going to give him time. I'm not going to fret. This is a decision that was made because they swung and missed on Bregman. But I do think when we get into this trading portion of the show, I think they might have some answers possibly in the trade market to kind of platoon with Matt Shaw. We'll get into that in just a second. And I definitely did want to get into some of the good, because there's going to be, I have a feeling, a lot of bad in this program today. But we did get an exciting return on And he did return against the Cardinals, and for all intents and purposes, Shota Imanaga was through 77 pitches, 49 strikes, retired all 5 leadoff hitters that he faced, 5 innings pitched, 1 hit, 1 walk, 3 Ks, and a 2.54 earned run average. On top of that, digging into him just a little bit deeper, fly the W when he comes to the mound. He started 38 games for the Cubs. He is 19-5. The team is 19-5, or he is 19-5, excuse me. And the team is 29-9 in his starts, and that backs up with a 2.83 earned run average on the season. And Kyle, we were talking backstage before the show. This is the other thing that I wanted to mention when we were talking about rotations and possibly adding 1 piece, maybe 2. But if you add an ace to this roster, did we get an ace in? Do we have an ace in the making? Since Shota Minaga went down with an injury on May 4th, that was 10 starts for Matthew Boyd. He rocked a 2.62 earned run average, a 0.9 whip, and in his last 6 starts, even better, 36 innings pitched and a 1.48 earned run average. So when we start getting into some of these things that we talk about, the Cubs need this, they need that. When you go into a playoff, you usually need about 3 solid starters. So for me, if I may disagree with you, Kyle, if they do add a Sandy Alcantara to this, and if we bump ahead really quick, we'll throw these stats up there now, who's coming off that injury and seems to be getting back to his old self. If you look at his last 4 starts, and then you look at the combination of the Cubs also trying to pair Edward Cabrera since the injury to Shota Imanaga has also been fantastic for the Miami Marlins. If the Cubs, Kyle, were to say, pull off this deal where they ended up with these 2 pitchers, and a deal like that would look something like this: Owen Casey, Jonathan Long, Jack Neely, Brett Bateman, and Ben Brown for these 2 pitchers. How do you feel about that, especially giving up on Owen Casey, knowing that you don't have Kyle Tucker under contract and you don't want to put Suzuki back in right, and you also have an expiring Ian Happ contract, and that also comes with age. So they add these 2, Kyle. and you turn around and you give up these top prospects, where's your heart and mind say yes, no? Where are your feelings? Talk to me, Goose.
I mean, it's really not that simple. I wish it was so black and white, but I mean, you're talking about trading away a quarter of the Cubs farm system future prospects for these two guys. I mean, if you don't win a World Series this year, that's a failure. If you do win a World Series this year, it's a success, because I honestly, truly believe, and I know Cubs fans don't want to hear me say this, but Kyle Tucker, if he's asking for at the end of the season, is still asking for $600 million, is not going to be Chicago Cubs. I can promise you that. Like, anybody who wants to, you can take that receipt, put it in your pocket, keep it for the rest of your life, because they are not signing Kyle Tucker to $600 million extension. So if you traded those guys away, you get those two pitchers here, and then you end up losing the playoffs and don't win a World Series. Now you're going the next season without half your outfield, right? Kyle Tucker's gone. Ian Happ's on an expiring contract, and Owen Casey certainly can't go up here and replace him because he's gone. And then you have one of the worst you went from one of the best outfields in baseball to one of the worst outfields in baseball, considering you have one good player out there. I don't know, man. I've said this 1,000 times in this podcast. I'll say it again. It's just the timing is just bad for the Cubs. It's bad. If they wanted to go all in, if they were like, well, we're going to rent Kyle Tucker for 1 year and we're going to win a World Series this year, they had to do more in the offseason. Now they're playing this game where they're like, well, maybe if we add 2 starting pitchers and try to find a third baseman who can hit for average in the playoffs and get some more RBIs out of that spot. Like, there's a lot of ifs, and that's a huge, huge risk to trade away future prospects and Sean, I know you don't want to hear this, but it's a strong possibility. Say you add one of those, say they only add one of those guys, right? Let's try to be realistic. And you bring them here and you win 6 games in a row, and you're like, all right, the Cubs are back on track, and boom, and Managa's hurt again.
well, you can't, that's for me, like when we talk about fantasy football, drafting fantasy football players,
Yeah, but you can, because some teams have more depth than the Cubs. There's a lot of teams in baseball that have more starting pitching depth than the Chicago Cubs. I mean, look at all the teams in baseball this year who are just bringing these guys up from their farm system. Whoa. All of them. And Keith Horton is not Mizorowski. Keith Horton's not, he might be one day, but he's not this year, and he's not going to be this year. By the end of the season, Keith Horton's not going to have a 1.2 ERA. That's not going to happen. And that's no disrespect to Keith Horton. Once again, it's the timing. Now, Sean,
Mizorowski did get touched up for 3 runs the other day. I mean, he's still giving up.
If that's his bad day, I'd take that.
Now, hold on here, because this is something that has been blowing up on Twitter and on Facebook today when we start talking about Kate Horton, and it kind of really makes me upset, because when you look at Kate Horton, the guy started 9 games. In those 9 games, 7 of them he's given up 3 runs or less. He gave up 4 in the other one, and yesterday being his worst performance. Now, yesterday, I'm going to try not to be a little homer here, but that umpire was squeezing the shit out of Horton last night.
That's going to happen all the time.
Well,
it's going to happen in the playoffs too. It's the same umpires.
But you can't aid a pitcher and not call consistently when he's hitting the bottom of the zone. Umpires usually change their mind. This guy was hitting that 96-mile-per-hour fastball in the bottom of the zone consistently. When you look at the game track, the ball's in the zone, and this umpire is consistently giving him a ball. You got to give Horton a little leeway here, because I'm going to say one rough outing, to me, doesn't erase how promising he has looked.
I have nothing against Horton, and I think Horton's going to be a very good pitcher, but I'm not putting him in a starting rotation for a playoff roster. With youth comes inconsistency. That's part of the game. That's what the fact that the Cubs didn't bring him up last year. And listen, I'm not saying they could. I'm saying this team would be much better, much more primed for World Series run if Matt Shaw and Kid Horton come up last year, and they're starting to find their way and be more consistent in the majors. They're a year behind, and the Cubs have to deal with that. It's not their fault, but you have 2 options. Either A, you can replace those guys right now with like a starting caliber third baseman, send Matt Shaw down and be like, hey, Matt, we love you. You're the future. We just need this guy here for right now to try to win a World Series. But I don't think you can go into a playoff run with Matt Shaw at third and Kid Horton in your rotation. And not because Kid Horton's bad. I think Kid Horton's going to be a great pitcher. He's probably going to be the best pitcher on the Cubs. You just have to expect inconsistencies. Like this is not going to be the last game that Kid Horton allows more than 5 runs. It's not. I love Kate Horton. I love it. I absolutely love it.
So. He's looked pretty good.
Yeah, he has. He's got to have bad games.
He could have got on some of those innings if the umpire wasn't squeezing this guy. And when I say squeezing him, when you go look at Walter last night, he was actually getting those calls. I was very frustrated watching that umpire yesterday because it almost felt like a true home field advantage for the Astros.
Well,
I don't blame the umps too much, but when you're not that consistent and you're giving the home pitcher that bottom of the strike zone call and you're not giving it to the away pitcher, I'm sorry, man, that's horseshit. And I was very frustrated watching that, sitting there like, come on, guys, you got to give him this call.
This is the thing baseball fans have been complaining about for a long time, man. This is why they're talking about electronic strike zone. That's going to happen to pitchers a lot. It's going to happen to Kate Horton again. He's going to play a game again where he's getting squeezed by the umpire and the other pitcher's getting everything. That's just baseball. They're inconsistent. Sean, you said it the other day on the phone. This game is full of more human error than any sport in the entire world, and it's always going to be until they start changing some of this stuff. This game is dictated by those 4 or 5 men on the field, those umpires. That's just the way the game works. But I'm just saying, man, like there's just too many inconsistencies with the Cubs, and it's right now they're just not a World Series team. They're not.
Let me ask you this.
Simple.
Let me ask you this: if I said the Cubs have been one of the best stories of the 2025 season, they're 100%. Sitting at 48-34 halfway through the season. That puts them on pace for 96 wins. Mm-hmm. They've done this without 2 of their starting pitchers. That to me is kind of a testament to somewhat how deep and resilient this roster is. They have been holding first place since April 1st. They're getting a little streaky now, but they're getting a little streaky in the midst of playing 50 baseball games with 2 days off and all playoff contending teams, and you're also on the road. And they've also fell into this curve of desperation where at the beginning of the season they were hitting lefties at a 260 clip. And now
this is probably the scariest part about this baseball team. Right?
Yes,
this is the thing that says there's no way you win a World Series. If you can't hit left-handed pitching, you can't win a World Series. It's very simple.
It's become a southpaw problem since May 27th. That batting average is dipped to 207, ranks 27th. That on base percentage is 29th. The slugging is 21st. Now the good thing for the Cubs, and I give you. The good thing for the Cubs is in the next 10 days, they only face 2 left-handers. So,
Sean, the Cubs are a good team. They're just not a great team, and it's okay, man. It's okay because nobody expected them to be, and they shouldn't be because they have half their roster are guys who are playing in the majors for the first time or second time in their lives. This team's going to get better. The question is, you just have to worry about the future. Is Kyle Tucker here? Is Colin Casey out there? Like you just don't. The Cubs don't know what to do, and I bet you right now, Jed Hoyer is like, how much of this future do I lobby to try to chase World Series this year, knowing that this team has obvious flaws? I mean, Sean, good teams. When Dansby Swanson yesterday had a leadoff triple, there was 0 out. Good teams bring that guy home.
Yeah, I agree.
That's what good teams do. Bad teams don't. That's what inconsistent teams don't. If the Dodgers had a guy at third with 0 out, he's coming home. For a fact that guy's coming home.
At some point, yeah. Probably.
It sucks because when the Cubs when Swanson got to third, I looked at a couple guys at the bar and I'm like, what sucks is I'm not entirely sure they're going to get him home. And then sure enough, 4 minutes later, 3 outs, the Cubs are out of the inning. I'm like, that's what I'm talking about, guys. Like, that you guys know that the Cubs when they score first are like 20-8 or something like that, 22-8 or something like that. Like then score first. And when you get a man on third with 0 out, you got to bring that guy home. You have to absolutely get that guy home. That changes the game entirely, guys. That you're telling the Houston Astros, we're in your house. We just scored the first run. We're the Chicago Cubs. We're here to stay. If they get a man on third with 0 out and they strike you out 3 times in a row or 3 routine pop outs and you can't get that guy home, that's the Astros saying, we're not worried about it. Like, you guys can put guys on base all day. We'll just strike out the next 3. Don't worry. We're not worried about it. The Cubs put themselves in these positions numerous times. Like, Sean, do you know over the last, I think it's 6 seasons, I think they're the worst team in the history of baseball getting guys home from third with 0 1 out. I'm not making that up. That's like a true. I think they're like bottom 5.
It has been a big problem, and let me ask you this, because you touched on this a little bit ago. I kind of, about, do you feel, first off, yes or no, do you feel the Cubs would be in first place if Kyle Tucker wasn't here?
No.
Okay. So when you look at what he's done this year, and he did have, I think it was his 3rd or 4th assist from the outfield last night. He threw out Paredes at home in the 2nd inning, I think it was. Now, when you look at what he's done this year for the Chicago Cubs, and you look at where he is, 86 for 304, he's on pace for 600 at bats. And it does look like, he's on pace for 30 home runs, 100 RBIs, 40 stolen bases. His WAR is probably going to creep up to that 5.6 by the end of the season. He's hitting 283. He's probably going to wind up in between 280, 290. His OPS is probably going to be in between 900 and 1,000 would be my guess. Do you honestly not believe that this is a $600 million baseball player based on what the market says when you look at what Vlad Guerrero Jr. is doing in baseball? Would you not offer him $600 million knowing how important he is to this baseball team?
Sean, I mean, honestly, if you're asking me if I'm a business owner, I own the Chicago Cubs. Do I think those numbers are $600 million? No, I don't. I really don't. And I love Kyle Tucker, and I think he's as advertised. I think Kyle Tucker is the best Cub, and he's a very good player in baseball. But if I'm a franchise looking at the future of my roster, or the future of my team in my championship window, I'm not giving one player $600 million unless he's Ohtani and he can pitch and hit. That's the only way I'm giving you a freak of nature, a unicorn. And you guys, I don't know if you noticed or not, but Ohtani's starting to find his ground on that mound. He's starting to get – Ohtani's about to be Ohtani that we've all been watching for the last 5 years, who's about to dominate baseball. I mean, this guy's going to be probably the best hitter in baseball, top 3, and probably a top 5 pitcher in baseball. So, I mean – Sean, we've talked about this before. I'll talk about it again. Ohtani's contract just screwed up baseball because he got money from a Dodgers team that's willing to spend money wherever they want, however they want, whenever they want, for being a two-way player. And then all of a sudden, the Mets decide to give the likes of Juan Soto the same contract, but Juan Soto doesn't do the same things that Ohtani does. So that was just the Mets screwed that up. They should not have given. Sean, Soto is a great player too, right? Soto's a great player too, right? You look at his numbers, you'll be impressed. He's a very good player. Would I have given him $750 million? No, absolutely not. And I wouldn't have given Vlad Guerrero $500 million. And I wouldn't give Kyle Tucker $600 million. But, I mean, if the Cubs want to be in the conversation with the Boston Red Sox, the Los Angeles Dodgers, the New York Yankees, it looks like they're going to have to give him $600 million. Sean, if they don't, it's not a good look for the Chicago Cubs. It's really not a good look for the Chicago Cubs.
Yeah, it's getting pretty grim if you look at it and say that they don't re-sign this guy. But I'll tell you this right now, this is a guy I think is a must-sign for the Cubs. I've been adamant on this show and throughout when I've talked to our friends and things of that nature. I feel 100% confident the Cubs will get this done and Kyle Tucker will stay a Chicago Cub. How or what the price is, I don't know, because you do have a guy like PCA that's going to be coming up. I think when you look at a guy like Justin Steele, I think he's going to be on his last deal, especially at his age. He's in his 30s. He's only going to get older. Shota, I think the Cubs have a team option for him. He'll be picked up probably at the end of this season, would be my guess. But I'm just not one in July to fret that much. From June 20th to July 9th in 2016. The Cubs did the same thing. They lost 3 out of 4 to the Cardinals. They won on a 5-15 stretch. Personally,
Sean, give me your odds to win the World Series. Like who do you put in the top 5? You can put them in order.
As it stands right now, I'd probably go Dodgers. I know this is weird to say, but I just like pitching wins, and the Mets have it. So I'd probably put the Mets ahead of the Yankees. Then I'd probably follow.
You have to put the Phillies, right? Because they beat the Cubs.
Well, I would probably put the Yankees and then the Phillies, and then the Cubs trailing them, all 5 of them, until they figure out this rotation.
You like the Cubs roster better than the Padres?
I do. As a whole, I do. I personally think this team's going to get hot again, and whether we can agree to disagree on this, I think from 1 to 7, the Cubs have one of the best lineups in baseball. They have to figure out 8 and 9, which I think will get better when you have Miguel Amaya come back, because I understand that you have everyone. Carson Kelly is a finalist for the All-Star game. The guy's hitting 200 since the beginning of May. So let's not fool ourselves, but I do think Carson Kelly is going to stay. I do think Reese McGuire is going to stay. I do think we'll be saying goodbye to either Birdie or Brujan as soon as Miguel Amaya gets back. I think the Cubs are going to end up carrying 3 catchers. I don't know how you get rid of Reese McGuire.
Sean, real quick, I think Steve, I don't know if I've seen Steve in here before, but he says PCA is not coming up under control till 2030. Yes, Steve, you are right. He is under control till 2030, but he is also due for arbitration in 2027. So if he wins his arbitration cases, which he will because he's a star in baseball, the Cubs are going to start paying him like a premium player in 2027 because that arbitration is going to get him 16, 18, 20, 25 million dollars. So they're basically going to be paying him like he's under contract, even when he's not under contract, even when he's on this rookie deal with it. In baseball, there really is no such thing as a rookie deal. But when he's paid in 2027, his arbitration 2020 it'll go up, 2029 it'll go up, in 2030 it'll go, or 2030 it'll go up. Once that happens, you're basically going to be paying him like you gave him a contract for 6 years, $100 million, because he's going to win every single arbitration case he applies for, 100%. It's not even a question. Just like Chris Bryant did, just like every other player that the Cubs have brought up here and refused to pay, they all have won their arbitration cases against the Cubs, and PCA is not going to be any exception. He's going to win every single case. He's a star, right? I mean, the guy is second in baseball in WAR.
Oh, I think he will.
He's going to get every dollar he asks for.
You know, and before we flip this, because I do want to get into this, I kind of want to intermingle Jed's extension with the trade deadline. And before we move on, and you may want to touch on this after I say this, I just personally feel that this team's going to get out again. They're going to make a trade. They're going to bolster the rotation. Just remember, the Yankees have a 1-game lead. The Phillies have a half-game lead.
Sure, real quick.
These all went through. Hold on, these guys all went through brutal stretches just recently, as the Cubs have. So fasten your seatbelts. Baseball's always a bumpy ride. It was a bumpy ride in 2016. This doesn't mean I think the Cubs are going to win the World Series. I do think they're still going to win this division, although the Brewers are not going to make it easy for them.
Bruce, I love you. I respect you. He's put his rankings up: Dodgers, Mets, Cubs, Phillies. But I just don't see any way you could put the Phillies behind the Cubs until the Cubs could prove to you that they could beat the Phillies, because they haven't beaten them yet. I mean, they beat them 2 out of 4 or 2 out of 6 this season. So until they can beat them consistently, there's just no way I can rank the Cubs above the Phillies. But Sean, I am not saying that it's out of the realm of possibility that the Chicago Cubs can win a World Series. There is a scenario in which the Chicago Cubs could win a World Series. Anything is possible at any given moment in sports. The problem with the Cubs is, I think of all the teams you just talked about, they have the most question marks. And even if they fix those question marks via the trade or free, whatever, they add some free agent like Kenta Maeda and he comes up here and pitches well, there's still too many question marks to me, because you never know what you're going to get. Some of these guys are just, like I said, if Matt Shaw's your third baseman going into the playoffs and every other team in baseball is getting 260 and 12 RBIs in the playoffs from the third baseman, and we're getting 120 and 2 RBIs, you're already behind the 8 ball. And then on top of it, that starting rotation, listen, Sandy Alcantara is a good pitcher. He's proven he can do this in baseball before, but that sample size you put up there was 4 games. I mean, I would have to, if I'm the Cubs and I'm trading away a big chunk of my future to chase World Series, I'd like to do it for a guy who's proven he did it all season, like a guy more like Chris Sale. I understand that that's not in the realm of possibility for the Cubs because they're not going to pay anybody like that. Sandy Alcantara is on a cheap contract. That's why they want him. Make no mistake about it, guys. They want Sandy Alcantara because he's cheap, not because he's their favorite pitcher in baseball. If they can pick any pitcher in baseball off a list of pitchers to bring to the Cubs solely based off of skill or talent, it wouldn't be Sandy Alcantara. They're doing that because it's a very cheap contract for a pitcher they believe still has a lot left in the tank. I just think there's too many question marks. And I'm not saying that the Cubs can't win a World Series. And if they make these trades for these starters, I hope they do. Even after they make a trade, if they added both those pitchers that Sean put on the screen from the Miami Marlins, and you asked me, all right, they added these 2 pitchers. Now where do you rank the Cubs in the World Series hopes and rankings? I would still rank them in the exact same spot. I'd still put the Dodgers above them. I'd still put the Yankees above them. I'd still put the Phillies above them. And I'd still put the Mets above them. And it's just because the Cubs are young and they are inconsistent. You never know when PCA is going to go through his woes. You never know when Matt Shaw is going to go through his woes. I mean, this is just a team. When Suzuki gets cold, he gets really good, really cold. And I know Suzuki's a great hitter. It's unfortunate that instead of Suzuki having a bad day, good day, bad day, good day, bad day, he has bad months, good months, bad months, good months. And that's who he's been since the Cubs brought him in here. But I mean, and I'm not picking on Suzuki because he's a very good player. I mean, you can't pick on a guy who's leading baseball in RBIs. I'm not complaining about it. It's just you never know when you're going to get, like, there's times stretches where he hits 200, and there's stretches where he hits 360, and there's stretches where he hits 210, and there's stretches where he hits 400. You got all those pieces to align perfectly when they make the playoffs is a huge, huge, huge risk for the Cubs to take, to trade away a big chunk of their future to get those two pitchers here to chase World Series. And I'll tell you this, guys, if they trade away half their farm system to get these two pitchers and they don't win a World Series and Kyle Tucker leaves and you don't have the replacement, Cubs fans are going to be absolutely devastated after the season. Devastated. They're going to be like, where do we go from here? Where do we go from? Because the Cubs aren't spending money in free agency. We already know that, right? If they're not willing to pay Kyle Tucker, who are they willing to pay? Who are they going to bring here? And who's a good free agent this season anyway? There's not many. It's not like somebody you can bring here who's going to change your roster completely. There's nobody like that out there. There's no Soto. There's no Tucker. There's no Ohtani. Those guys are already, I mean, Pete Alonso. And that's what scares me, because I think if they let Kyle Tucker walk, that's the guy they would go after. And that scares me, because I don't think Pete Alonso is as good of a player as people think he is. I don't.
He's a monster year this year.
Yeah, he's having a good year, but look at his last 2 years. I mean, once again, the inconsistency. Are you going to pay for the inconsistency? What year are you going to get Pete Alonso if you bring him here next year? Is it going to be the year like last year, or is it going to be a year like this year? You don't know. And it's tough, man. It's very. And Sean, where's Michael Busch going?
Well, Michael Busch is under contract for quite some time, and
but if you sign Pete Alonso, where do you play him?
DH. You're going to need a DH.
Well, where does Suzuki go? Back to right field?
If Kyle Tucker doesn't stay, you have no choice but to put Suzuki back in right field. Who's your right fielder?
That's what I'm saying. Just like that right there, that statement right there, like you're making moves because you're cheap, and then you have to start moving guys around, because instead of paying Kyle Tucker $600 million, you're like, well, let's give Pete Alonso $200 million and let's just move everybody around. Like, that's just not a winning recipe. Like, that's it.
Here's what I have. Here's what I got with Owen. When it comes to Owen Casey, Kevin Alcantara, and who's the other outfielder they have out there? I think that's the two top prospects they have.
Nobody who's going to come up here and be a star. Those are the two who have star potential.
No, I got their numbers when we take a look down on the farm here just a little bit. I got their midway numbers all dialed up for those guys. Owen Casey is having the best month of his amateur career this year in the month of June, which could be fueling speculation of trades with him. But I will say this. When it comes to guys, and I'll pop this trade back up there really quick, because I just want to go through them really fast. If you look at a guy like Owen Casey, that's where you're going to hurt. Jonathan Long doesn't have a true position. You have Jefferson Rojas, and you have God, give me the 18-year-old.
Christian
Hernandez. Thank you. Jack Neely, he's a pitcher. Brett Bateman, he is another potential infielder, outfielder kind of tech mix. And you're ready to give up on – well, I shouldn't say you're ready to give up on Ben Brown, but you said for Sandy Alcantara just the other day you would ship him in a heartbeat.
No doubt about it. No doubt about it.
Okay, so if this was the package, and outside of Owen Casey, are the Cubs really being hurt that bad?
Well, I mean, I don't know, Sean. Jonathan Long looks really good too. I mean,
he's
certainly not having a bad year. I mean,
but where's his position? If you believe in Jefferson Rojas and you believe in Matt Shaw and you believe in Christian Hernandez, he doesn't have one.
I mean, if you believe in those guys, I believe. How far away are those guys? I mean, Jonathan Long's not far away.
Jonathan Long is not far away.
So, I mean, Sean, it's not just about how many guys you have down there. You can bridge some of these guys. So you're like, hey, guys, Jefferson Rojas is not going to be ready for 4 years. But in the meantime, Jonathan Long can fill that spot till he gets here. Like, it's not just automatically like, well, Jonathan Long doesn't have a spot because these guys are coming. They're all projected to come here at different times, which is great that the Cubs have that depth at every position. Like, hey, we can bring Alcantara up this year. We keep him on the roster for 3 years. We can trade him and bring Owen Casey up. Like they have that luxury because all these guys are under contract till 2032 or whatever, because they're all drafted by the Chicago Cubs. But this is the question: when you start parting ways with future pieces, and like Bruce said in chat there, this is a young team. If you keep this young core together and continue to bring up young talent, you could have a championship caliber team for the next 10 years, or you could trade away half your farm system and go after all in this year and not have a championship window for the next 10 years. So, I mean, what do you think the odds are that the Cubs could win the World Series if they add 2 pitchers? What do you think? How much do you think that increases their odds?
I think it will, depending on who those pitchers are, I think it increases their odds immensely. Because
I mean, but does it make them like? Is it head and shoulders above the competition? Like we guaranteed getting a World Series this year?
No, because the Mets, the Phillies, and the Padres and the Dodgers are.
So Sean, would it break your heart if they trade away all those guys and then they lose this year and Kyle Tucker leaves? Would you be absolutely devastated as a Cubs fan and be like, we don't even have anybody left to replace Kyle Tucker because we just traded him?
As you say that, if you give away Casey and Bateman, who are 2 outfielders who are coming up to play outfield for the Cubs, and you only keep Alcantara, it almost says you have to make sure you re-sign Kyle Tucker, because if you don't, you gave away an entire outfield and you have nothing to replace.
Yeah, but Sean, here's the difference. So, if they win a World Series, nobody gives a shit if they sign Kyle Tucker.
I wouldn't give a shit.
I do. I
would not care.
I still want Kyle Tucker to be here, but most Cubs fans would be like,
of course.
Most Cubs fans would be like, I don't give a shit if Kyle Tucker's here or not. We won a World Series. We did exactly what we had to do.
No.
But
I want to win multiple World Series.
But I mean, Sean, but that would be the Cubs' response to Cubs fans saying, why didn't you sign Kyle Tucker? They'd be like, hey, we went all in on a World Series. We can't afford Kyle Tucker, but you got your World Series, so relax. But if you keep all those minor leaguers and you have one of the best farm systems in baseball, doesn't that by default mean that you should be a competitive team for the next 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 years? I mean, the more you bring these guys up, the more they impact this roster. The Cubs should only continue to get better, right?
And I think that was the plan. I really do think that was the plan.
I think so too. I think the Cubs are better than they thought they were going to be.
But then you enter this championship window this year, and wouldn't it behoove you to put your chips in to see if you can win that illustrious championship?
It just depends on how many chips. I'm not going all in. No, I'm not. I'll call. I might even raise you a little bit, but I'm not going all in.
Here, Kyle, I'll tell you this. For me, and I've said this, I'm not 100% sold on giving away Owen Casey, but between Casey and Alcantara, I think Alcantara brings more to the plate as a 5-tool, or to the field as a 5-tool player. So I keep him. I keep Rojas. I keep Hernandez. I keep Jackson Wiggins. I keep Riley Martin. I keep Luke Little. I keep what's the other kid? Oh man, I'm forgetting one. I mean, you can even throw James Triantos into this package.
But you know my response, Sean. Like, if you keep 20,
those are my untouchables.
If you keep 20, 6 of them might be good. Right? If you keep 40, 12 of them might be good.
Here, I'll tell you, of all these players, I think Jefferson Rojas, I think Christian Hernandez, Jackson Wiggins, and I want to say Alcantara, but I'll leave him just on the outside. Although he's come out pretty quickly.
He's going to be.
Those are the only 3 guys that.
Alcantara is going to be a good player in baseball, but he might not be great. They don't know. They want him to be great, but they want him
to be great. Sure,
but he might not be, because Alcantara has his struggles in the minors as well. The majors is a different game. That's a completely different. What I'm saying is he's not PCA. He's not a slam dunk. He's not like, hey guys, we give this guy enough time, we promise he'll be a star. He's not that type of player. He's not. Alcantara is not. He's a guy who could be a really good player in baseball, but probably not expected to be a superstar by any means necessary. So this is what I'm talking about, Sean. I'm not combating you solely for the sake of conversation. Well, if I'm Jed Hoyer and I'm looking at this team, my goal is to keep. If I don't believe they're going. So here's where we differentiate, Sean. This is where the conversation gets kind of tough, because I don't think they're going to sign Kyle Tucker for $600 million. They've just never shown me anything to prove that they would do anything like that. They're very cheap. You know, we're going to do Jed Hoyer extension later, and I'll explain why this has nothing to do with Jed Hoyer. It has everything to do with Tom Ricketts, but I just don't think that they're willing to put up that kind of money for one player. So if that's the case, if the Cubs are going to come out at the end of the season and say, hey guys, we just can't afford to pay Kyle Tucker, then keep as much of this youth as you possibly can so that you're good for a very long time.
Well, Kyle, that's a decision they have to make right now. Then you can't wait. Either you're talking to cheat boy Ricketts and saying, hey, we are in this window to win this championship right now. we can make these moves, but we have to give up this future to part with this future in order to make these moves to win this championship. I mean, Jed Hoyer, and we'll never know because it'll never come across us if this came across Ricketts' desk or not. But these are what separates good teams from bad teams, making these tough decisions. Because
Sean, real quick, Sean, do you want to just answer this question for John? I think we kind of have talked about it a little bit, but yeah, John, there's definitely help on the way for sure. Like they have,
but not right now.
They're just guys that you have to wait on. They're still developing, but they all there's Sean. We've talked. There's 5 or 6 guys down there with star potential. You just don't know. You just don't know. And if there's 5 or 6 guys, you expect maybe 2 of them to be really good in baseball. Like that's just baseball. It's a crapshoot. But
and really
Sean,
quick, wouldn't this be a true
you?
statement if I said this? Jed and the Cubs are in first place. They control their own destiny. That's what being in first place means. Yeah. You are in first place. You have to do right now what it takes. You've been in first place since April 4th to maintain your position. You've seen what the Reds have done. You've seen what the Brewers have done. The Cardinals aren't going to do shit because the Cardinals are winning while they're trying to rebuild, for the love of Christ.
All right, Sean, it's just like, let me ask you this. If at the end of the season, the Cubs don't win the World Series, they make these trades and they don't win the World Series. If I say to you, hey, Sean, the Cubs went all in on a World Series and they didn't win it. They lost in the playoffs and they now are without Cam Smith, Kyle Tucker, and Owen Casey. That doesn't bother you in any way, shape, or form. I mean, you just traded away what could have been the best outfield in the history of baseball to chase the World Series. And now you have none of them. Now they're all gone.
Here, regardless if they win the World Series or not, trading Cam Smith to me meant you had to re-sign Kyle Tucker.
Yeah, you said earlier,
that's what that meant to me.
You said, I don't know what Jed Hoyer knows if they're going to re-sign him. Don't you think that the Cubs should have known if they were going to re-sign Kyle Tucker when they made that trade?
I don't disagree with you in that aspect of this part of the deal. I think that should have been something. And again, we've heard rumors where the Cubs have approached, and we don't know what's true or not because either side, Tucker's camp or the Cubs camp, it's just come from like Bob Nightingale and Bruce Levine and these guys who are around the clubs and inside baseball.
Yeah, Bruce Levine's a very trustworthy source. He's a very trustworthy source. Bruce Levine knows his shit. Very rarely does Bruce Levine come out and say something. Actually, there's an article last year that Bruce Levine wrote about, I think it was the Astros. I forgot what he said, but people were ragging on him. It made national media, and everything he said in that article happened to a T. Every single thing he said, the Cubs, they're going to part ways with Kyle Tucker. And he nailed it. I mean, he absolutely nailed it. Everything he put in there, he nailed it. But I don't know, Sean, it's a very tough conversation because, of course, as a Cubs fan, you want them to get a World Series, right? That's the goal.
That's the goal.
At the end of the day, if they told me tomorrow, Kyle, we can guarantee World Series if we trade every single piece in our farm system that we have. So after this World Series, we're going to suck for another 5 years. I'm taking the World Series. Give me the World Series in the 5 years of sucking. I want the World Series. That's why I'm a Cubs fan. I don't watch the Cubs because I just like eating up time and waste in watching baseball. I watch because I'm watching in the hopes that one day I'll be watching another World Series. That's the goal. So if they could guarantee me a World Series, I'm all in. But if they trade away half this farm system, don't win a World Series, and then Kyle Tucker walks, I mean, you're talking about a team that was primed to be one of the best teams in baseball for the next 6-7 years due to their farm system, to a team that's going to look pretty average for the next 5 or 6 years because they traded everybody away and didn't extend Kyle Tucker. That would be heartbreaking for me as a Cubs fan. I think about the future, not just the present, guys. I'm a Cubs fan, but I think with my brain, not my heart. I want them to be good for a long time. I want the Cubs to be in the conversation with the Dodgers and the Yankees and the Mets. I want them to be one of those teams. If they don't get this Kyle Tucker extension done and they trade away a bunch of prospects, they're not going to be in that conversation because Alcantara and Cabrera, those 2 pitchers, even if they get both of them, you still got to have hitters, right? And now you just lost your whole outfield, your PCA. So now you're like, all right, well, we have great pitching, but man, our outfield sucks. I mean, if the Cubs are going to get to a point where there are no holes in the roster and they've plugged all of them, they have to spend money. You have to spend money.
They're going to.
They don't like to.
And that's not a Jed thing. That's a Ricketts thing.
That's a Ricketts thing. 100%.
As we get into this, I wanted to ask you, this Jed extension, as we flip the script here, the front office and pitching department have done a pretty good job. You had 2 non-roster invitees to spring training, Brad Keller, Chris Flexen. We've seen how they've done, and we're going to talk about one guy in Chris Flexen that I think personally should be replacing Colin Ray in the starting rotation. But his acquisition,
Sean, Chris Flexen and Drew Pomeranz should have gotten All-Star consideration. They both had a 0-0 ER with 20 innings pitched.
I'm with you.
What do you got to do? What do you have to do to get in the All-Star game?
And that's another nod for Drew Pomeranz, another feather in the cap of Jed Hoyer. His acquisition of Pete Crow Armstrong for 2 months of service of Javi Baez, the 21 deadline. The signing of a number of free agent hits such as a Suzuki, Imanaga. I know you're not going to like this, Jameson Taillon, but Michael Boyd, incorporating some homegrown talent like Horton, Matt Shaw, drafting Shaw, developing him, getting him up to this level. Same with Porter Hodge. In that same token, as I say, the Cubs have made the playoffs 3 times since winning the World Series in 2016. They've advanced past the wild card just once. But currently right now, they own the 4th best record in baseball. So when you take all these things into consideration, and I know there was a lot of people, you can also throw the feather in the cap. He knew when to say goodbye to Chris Bryant. He knew when to make the trade or say goodbye to Anthony Rizzo. I mean, there's a lot of things that go into the feather of the cap, but we came into this season talking about he didn't do enough in this bullpen, but God damn, this bullpen, and if I give the bullpen an appreciation tweet right now, or I shouldn't say tweet, shout out, I'm just used to saying tweet. This bullpen has been nothing short of stellar for the Chicago Cubs. So do we start to give him some props and say maybe this is a guy, when you look at Pomeranz, 0 earned run average, Flexen 0.75, Ryan Brazier 159, Valencia 186, Keller 196, Thielbar, another guy he signed, Thielbar. We should give him some credit for that because we bagged on him for that at the beginning. Sure, has he done enough for you to say extend?
There's only 2 things Jed Hoyer has done that I didn't like. Outside of that, Jed Hoyer's been amazing. And if they took the handcuffs off and let him spend as much money as he wanted, this would be the best team in baseball. There's no question in my mind. Jed Hoyer wants Max Fried. He wants those guys, dude. He wanted Alex Bregman. He made that quite clear to the owners of the Chicago Cubs. I want Alex Bregman here. If we can plug that third base hole, this is a World Series team. Now, obviously, they thought they had Justin Steele, and they thought Imanaga was going to be healthy all season. But if those 3 things happen, Bregman's at third base, Justin Steele doesn't get hurt, Imanaga doesn't get hurt, the Cubs are the best team in baseball. They right now would be the best team in baseball. No doubt in my mind. Not a question in my mind that this would be the best major league roster in baseball. But the Ricketts won't let him spend the money he wants to spend. It has nothing to do with Jed Hoyer. Jed Hoyer is awesome. The only thing I don't like about Jed Hoyer since he's been here is this trade, if he doesn't extend Kyle Tucker, was a terrible trade. Awful. Yeah. You just trade Cam Smith's going to be a really good player, Sean. It doesn't take much. Guys, watch Cam Smith. You can see it. He's going to be very good baseball player.
It doesn't see him last night.
The guy's hitting 275 as a rookie. How many rookies come up in baseball? Oh yeah, by the way, guys, he had the 3rd shortest stint in the history of minor league baseball before being upgraded to the major league roster. The third least amount of minor league games before making a major league roster. Cam Smith.
And he was 2 for 2 with 2 runs and 3 RBIs last night against the Cubs as well.
Yeah. Amazing. He's going to be an amazing player. And the Jameson Taillon contract, I hated that contract. Sean, I told you that the
I know.
The day it happened, I'm like, why of all the guys, way to be the cheap team in free agency. You go get the worst pitcher available in free. Why the hell did you do that, Sean? How many other pitchers and other rosters we talked about that the Cubs had a chance to get? A lot.
I'm gonna be the opposite side of this coin, because when it comes to Jameson Taillon, with the exception of the Milwaukee start, which obviously was bad timing to have a bad start, the guy rattled off 7 straight quality starts. You needed some good pitching. Hold on, he has a 230 earned run average at Wrigley Field that bumped up a little bit in his last start since being acquired, or since the beginning of last year. Now, did they overpay a little bit? Yes.
Yeah, but what were you about
to say? Been quality for the Chicago Cubs.
What were you about to say before that? You were just about to say since being acquired. you got to look at the contract totality, not the last year and a half. I mean, Jameson Taillon was brought here 3 years ago, and since he's been brought here, he's been nothing but inconsistent. And you know what, guys? That's who Jameson Taillon is.
Well, and you know what, though?
Who he's been since the day he got in baseball.
Jameson Taillon right now is exactly who Jameson Taillon's been in his career.
Exactly.
So you signed who you signed.
Yes.
Now I say this, he's at a 4. I think he bumped up to 448. I can't remember, something like that. He's above league average, because league average right now is 397 for a starting pitcher, and since 2014, league average earned run average has not been below 394. So he is a little bit above that, and he has fluctuated this season, and he can get that back down if he can find himself again, which he did for a pretty long stretch here during this season.
Yeah, and we've been saying the same thing.
But he's a 4. He's a 4. If you signed him to be a 2 or a 3, then you made a tremendous mistake.
Yeah, and if you would have signed a 2, you'd be having a much different conversation about World Series aspirations right now if you would have signed a Max Fried instead of Jameson Taillon that season. And Sean, I can tell you this: if Jameson Taillon was an absolute stud, and people thought, well, this guy's only get better from here, he would not have. He would be on the Yankees still. They wouldn't let him go. The Yankees don't let really, really good players walk. They pay everybody. They pay everyone. They let him walk because they're like, this guy's not that good.
I'll say this, Kyle. If he was our 4 and he was eating innings like he does in every out, I mean, the guy is good for 6-7 innings every outing.
Yeah, if 4, great.
And you wouldn't be upset right now about the signing. You'd be like,
but he's not paid he's their highest paid pitcher. You don't pay your 4 the most money of any pitcher on your roster. He wasn't brought here to be a 4. He was brought here to be a 2, and he's not a 2. He's not. And as I said, I do believe the Cubs overpaid him. I do, but I am not as down on Jameson Taillon over the past 2 years. His first year here with the Cubs was a complete disaster, but I think he's turned it around, especially at Wrigley Field, where it's hard to pitch. Having a 250, I think it's around 250 earned run average since the beginning of last year. That's not a small sample size. That's a big sample size, man. To say this guy can pitch at Wrigley Field. Your assessment of Jameson Taillon is different than the Cubs. Like, the Cubs expected him to be probably the number 2 or 3 in this rotation. He's not. He's not a number 2, and he's not a number 3 on a good team in baseball. He's not. As a matter of fact, I might be mistaken. I think maybe Sean, you can correct me, or Bruce, you can look this up. I think Jameson Taillon's leading the league in home runs, if I'm not mistaken. He's given up the most home runs of any pitcher in baseball.
He's second. And the funny joke that I said the other day was PCA 21 home runs, Suzuki 21 home runs, Taillon 21.
I mean, Sean, but if you just take away we've got the chance to watch him, and he's had good stints and bad stints. But if you take away pretend like you don't even know what Jameson Taillon is, and this is 3 years ago, and I tell you, Sean, the Cubs are going to make their highest paid pitcher, a guy who in 2025, when they're chasing World Series, is number 2 in the league and giving up home runs. You would be like, no, don't do that. Please don't do that. 100%. You'd be like, that is not a winning move for a championship caliber baseball team. Don't do that. The Cubs did that because he was cheap. That's why they did it.
We're going to get into Cubs grades here in just a couple of minutes. I got this fired up for you guys. No, and I don't disagree with. I don't disagree with you on the whole. I will tell you this. I wasn't upset about the signing. I was upset about the price they paid for him. More so, I think, again, if he settled in as your 4, which I think when they brought him here, they wanted it to be Steele, Shota, Taillon as your 1, 2, 3. I think they overestimated that. So that would be a knock in the cap of Jed Hoyer. But it's not, Sean. It's not Jed Hoyer. It's not. Listen, let me ask you a question. If Jed Hoyer did everything he did to build this farm system, talking about trading Anthony Rizzo, Chris Bryant, Javier Baez, right? Everything he's done so far with his farm system, drafting Matt Shaw, drafting whatever, everything you talked about. If he did all those same exact things, but then when he went to go sign a free agent pitcher, the Ricketts were like, we're going to give you more money than you normally do. And instead of signing Jameson Taillon, you could sign Max Fried. Is this a different conversation when you're talking about a World Series? Yeah. The problem is Jed Hoyer's not given the money he wants. That's why Theo Epstein left, Sean. That's why he left.
He's like, you guys have a different vision than I do. If you guys want to be a good baseball team, you can build this farm system all you want, but at some point you have to add stars by paying them money. You have to add a Max Fried and a Kyle Tucker, and then this team will be World Series. The Ricketts looked at him and said, we're never going to do that. We're going to pay the Jameson Tyans, not the Max Frieds. And we're going to hope the Jameson Tyan is better than he's been in his career. That's why Theo Epstein was like, then I'm out. I'm going to go to a team that spends a bunch of money, and I'm going to go win some World Series, because that's the way baseball is going. If you want to win a World Series, you got to spend money. And I don't blame Jed Hoyer for that. That's not Jed Hoyer's fault. You think Jed Hoyer didn't want a better pitcher than Jameson Tyan in that offseason? No, but of course he did. But Tom Ricketts wouldn't give him the money to do it. That has nothing to do with Jed Hoyer. He just is trying to duct tape this thing together without spending any money. I mean, Sean, the Cubs were 24th in free agent spending this last offseason. You think that's Jed Hoyer's decision? No, absolutely not. That has nothing. Jed Hoyer, if it was up to him, he'd spend $100 million every offseason, $200 million every offseason, just like the Yankees and the Dodgers and everybody. He's just not allowed to. He's not allowed to. It's the Ricketts. It has nothing to do with Jed Hoyer. Jed Hoyer's done a really good job building a competitive team without spending any money. The Cubs haven't spent any money at all, and they're one of the most competitive teams in baseball. Jed Hoyer, to me, is awesome. I love Jed Hoyer. I think he's a great GM. If they took the reins off and they took the handcuffs off, he could spend any money he want. This team would be winning World Series. They would be winning World Series.
I agree with you, and I would say extend him if he wanted to stay here. Another thing I forgot to mention was the addition of Michael Busch. I mean,
great trade. I mean, everything he's done. Everything he's done.
He's done a really good job.
Imanaga. Yeah, Imanaga. I mean, everybody was going after Yamamoto. Everybody was going after all these guys, and here's Jed Hoyer like, no, we'll settle for Imanaga. You guys take the big boys. We'll take. Imanaga's been amazing. This, to me, the Yankees probably are still wondering with how much Imanaga got paid compared to how much Yamamoto got paid. The Dodgers are probably wondering every single day, should we have taken Imanaga instead of Yamamoto? Like, we probably be a better.
They probably should have, right?
I mean, just another great move by Hoyer.
Isn't Yamamoto hurt right now too?
The whole Yankees roster.
Rocky's hurt.
The whole Dodgers roster was hurt at one point. Almost, I think all 5 of their starting pitchers were on IR at one point, or IL, whatever. But they're coming back. They're all starting to come back. And I mean, Sean, you talk about how impressive the Cubs record is without Steeler Imanaga. The Dodgers are second in the NL, and they lost their whole team at one point. When they all come back healthy, the Dodgers are going to be unbelievable.
Well, they're 20 games over 500. Too.
Yeah, I mean, when they all get big, I mean, and you get Ohtani pitching comfortably, because you guys know that Ohtani's only pitched like a couple innings here and there. Once he starts pitching, oh my God, the Dodgers are going to be absolutely scary.
And,
I mean,
and as we continue, because we've just decided we've just both agreed that I trust Jed Hoyer. I think Kyle,
you extend him. They could do much worse than Jed Hoyer.
I want to go. These are my top 10 trade candidates for the Cubs, Kyle, and I wanted to get here's 6 through 10. I tried to get 10 on one sheet, and I just couldn't do it. So Merrill Kelly, Tyler Mahle, Zach Alfline, Jacob Bird, and Jose Soriano. And I like Jose Soriano a lot. He's 26 years old. He's very young, but I feel like he is a young pitcher that's still developing. That's why I have him on 10, because I don't think he's a guy that you trade for that says, okay, you're going to win the World Series. Maybe in a couple of years down the road as Soriano continues. Because, I mean, he's got a 386 earned run average. Like I said, he's 26 years old. He's having a really decent season for the Angels right now. I don't even know if the Angels will part ways with him. I think they'd be foolish if they did. But if they would, that's kind of why he was on the bottom. Jacob Bird is someone I wanted to put higher on the list, because I love what this guy's doing, especially pitching for Colorado. He's got a 117 earned run average. His whip is 1, and he's pitching in Colorado for the worst team in baseball. Get him off that team and get him on the freaking Northside. Tyler Mahle was a guy that you looked at a couple weeks ago, which I think would be a great addition for the Cubs as well. And my 1 through 10, obviously, Sandy Alcantara, Seth Lugo, my cousin from a brother from another mother, Edward Cabrera, Johan Duran, a relief pitcher who is having a phenomenal season for the Minnesota Twins. He's got a 169 earned run average. In 37 innings pitched, he's got a 1.07 whip, 42 strikeouts, and the Twins are spiraling out of control right now. And then our boy, and Kyle, help me with this name because I can't pronounce it.
Eugenio Suarez. And Sean, another guy who should be on that list is Alex Bregman, because now it sounds like the Red Sox are thinking about trading him as well. And if he's available, the Cubs love him. They absolutely love him. There's no doubt that they would make that. I mean, Sean, you heard rumors, or I mean, it's not even reports that they called about Rafael Devers. I mean,
yeah, they did.
Called about him. They're definitely going to call about.
They're going to call about
because they love.
Hey, if you could, this is why I'm saying I'm not. Hey, it's a struggle right now, but all these teams are going through it, and this was an interesting piece. This was Bob Nightingale said this the other day. He said, "Please don't forget the fantasy of the Pirates even considering trading Ace Paul Skeens. Don't even bother calling now. If you want to talk about starters, Keller, Heaney, closers, Bednar, infielders, Isaiah Kiner or Kai Brian Hayes, or outfielders Brian Reynolds or Tommy Pham. The Pirates will have operators standing by to take your call. The Chicago Cubs, who have dominated the NL Central, but have seen their lead get a little too close for comfort, are one of the teams that would love to get their hands on Keller and Bednar." This was from Bob Nightingale's mouth just the other day. So I started to look into this, and when you go into Fangraphs now and you say, we're going to make these trades, Soriano's name's been tossed around, Keller's name's been tossed around, and Heaney's name's been tossed around. This is what concerns me about giving up prospects for these guys, because your 23-year-old who's pitched 250 innings between college, minors, and pros is doing exactly what they're doing. So it makes me a little concerned, and I don't know where you stand, but when you look at Fangraphs tells you the truth, man. Fangraphs is one of the best places to go. You're talking about your strikeout to walk. You want to get some swing and miss whiffs into this rotation. Where are you with some of these guys? And this is what Mitch Keller has done. The 29-year-old, 94 innings pitched, 73 strikeouts, and a 4.02 earned run average in 16 starts this season. So Kyle, where are you with some of this stuff?
That's exactly what I'm talking about. Mitch Keller doesn't make this World Series team. He just doesn't.
No.
It's not a good enough move for me to be like, you know what, part ways with half your future. Mitch Keller will get this done. No, he won't. He won't. And you know what, Sean? There's one guy on that list that's kind of a little unfair. Zach Gallen is better than those numbers. He's just having a bad season.
He's having a real. But do you?
He's a really good pitcher.
Anything for him?
No, not right now. Well, he's in the midst of his struggles. This is what I'm talking about. Like you can't just assume that Zach Gallen's going to come here and all of a sudden all these struggles are going to stop. And he's going to be the pitcher he was 2 years ago when they were talking about Cy Young. That's not and it's not realistic. And that's what scares me is I think this is what the Cubs are probably going to do, Sean. I think they're probably going to bring a guy here who they think could be better with their pitching coaches in Chicago, and a change of scenery will help him big time. But if that blows up in your face and he's still the same guy, like say they get Zach Gallen and he finishes the season with that 5.5 ERA, you just traded away prospects for nothing. And now you're talking about taking on Zach Gallen's contract or Sandy Alcantara's contract, which gives you less of a chance to extend Kyle Tucker. So, I mean, it's just it's the water's about to get real muddy here, and Jed Hoyer's going to have to figure this thing out, and he's got to figure it out fast. Sean, how many weeks until the trade deadline?
3.
Yeah, I mean, it's crunch time, and if you're going to do it, Sean, if you are going to trade for a starting pitcher, do it now. Get ahead of the pack. Do it right now. Don't wait for the trade deadline, because Sean, the closer you get to the trade deadline, the more expensive these guys get, because they know you're desperate. These teams you're trading with know you're desperate. They're like, hey, listen, we now 4 names are off the list as you guys waited so long. 4 guys have already been traded for. You're running out of options. We know you need this guy. We know you need him. So we're just going to keep raising the price.
Let me ask you this, Kyle. And I did a deep dive into Mitch Keller, because I know on the surface, Mitch Keller doesn't look like the guy. But if you're talking about future, you would have team control through 2028. He signed under a 5-year, $77 million a contract, which is very reasonable for a consistent 3 or 4 pitcher.
It's basically the same as Jameson Tyan.
Yeah. Now, when you look at this, and I'm just going to go over some numbers for you. Batting average against is 249. League average is 240. Slugging against is 358. League average is 400. 8 of his last 9 starts, he's went 6 innings, struck out 5 or more in 6 of his last 9. He's given up 3 runs or less 3 times in 16 starts. He gave up 7 against the Mets, 4 against San Diego, and 6 against Houston. 7 in the third versus shutout innings versus St. Louis in his only start. He K'd 6 in that performance of 524. He went 6, gave up 1, K'd 7 against the Brewers. 519, he went 6, gave up 1 earned run, and K'd 5 against the Cincinnati Reds. The last 3 years, 30 starts, 150 innings. So that's 3 years running. That's not easy to find. He's an inning eater. When his stuff works, that cutter and two-seamer that he throws, this guy does have the stuff to be a borderline 2, high-end 3. So if you're looking to build something for the future of your rotation, would Mitch Keller not interest you at all, depending on what you have to give up? I'm not saying, hey, we're going to trade at Jackson Wiggins for this guy straight up. But
I just think he is who he is. I mean, to me, this would be the same addition as Jameson Taillon. I mean, it's the same thing. Like, the Cubs should be looking for an ace. If you want to be a championship contender for the next 3 or 4 years, you need a guy who can go out and be the first pitcher to pitch in the playoffs. And if it's not, right now, obviously they have Imanaga, and he could be that guy. But like you said, Sean, Imanaga is only here for another year if they pick up his option. They're probably not going to pay him. So go get a guy under contract who could be your true ace, and then you could pair up with Justin Steele and Cade Horton. Once Cade Horton starts to get comfortable at the major league level and becomes more consistent, then you're talking about a rotation that could be good for 3 or 4 years, and you haven't get back in that World Series conversation. A guy like Mitch Keller is what, you're 3 or 4? What does trading for Mitch Keller do? Sean, I think.
Let me ask you this though: if you traded for Mitch Keller, wouldn't that immediately eliminate Colin Ray? You got better in that position.
Well, Jordan Wick should immediately. Anybody Chris Flexen should immediately. Anybody who can pitch a baseball should eliminate Colin Ray. Colin Ray sucks. There's no way you can convince me that Jordan Wicks is worse than Colin Ray. You cannot convince me that. I'm sorry. You just can't convince me that. There's no way you could possibly convince me that. There's no way. Guys, Colin Ray's not a good pitcher. He's not. He's not good.
His last 6, he's rocking a 760 earned run average.
He's never had an ERA sub 4 ERA in his career ever.
Today's going to be quite scary against the Astros. We'll get into that.
This is what I'm talking about. If you get this to start with Cade Horton, he has a bad start. Sure, he was being squeezed, whatever. It doesn't matter. By the way, guys, that second home run Cade Horton gave up was absolutely destroyed, dude.
Yeah.
I think that ball is still flying as we're on this podcast right now. That thing was, I think that landed on the railroad tracks in that stadium. That thing was destroyed, but.
And you know what, Kyle? Because John wasn't here earlier, so I'm going to pop this back up with the John on there, and let's just revisit this really quick because he said they should be shopping at the top of the market.
I agree, John.
So I want to throw this back up there because John wasn't here, and John, I want to get your thoughts on this. If the Cubs were to pull this off, because you kind of came in when we were talking about financing the future earlier. So this is what these guys have done. Edward Cabrera since May 4th. And you got to remember, Alcantara's coming off that injury. He's starting to find himself and become that dominant pitcher again. So I'm not defending his horrible start, but you always know, Kyle, that there's a regression that's going to happen when you're coming off that injury, trying to find yourself, trying to get more comfortable.
No, Sean, that's fair. That was a terrible injury.
Yeah,
I like Kevin Alcantara. Sean, if this is the trade they made, this is now you're talking about World Series conversation. You are, but I still think there's more moves they have to make other than those two, or at least start bringing guys up. You guys start like Luke Little. Somebody's got to come up because like Sean, you're talking about one day it's Michael Fulmer, the next day it's what's his name, the guy who was the worst pitcher in the Nate Pearson, and no, just bring a guy up here, get him in the rotation consistently, find his spot so that when the playoffs get here, he's used to his spot. Like say Luke Little is the 7th inning guy, then bring him up here and make him the 7th inning guy, and stop messing around with these Nate Pearsons and Michael Fulmers. And like, if you're not going to bring a guy up like Luke Little because you're afraid of losing his he only has 2 more options, then in that trade that you just showed with those 2 starting pitchers, you better include a reliever as well. Because I mean, Sean, is it just me, or was there a point where Daniel Palencia was pitching pretty much every single day, right? I mean, that's got to stop.
Well, now you got Porter Hodge back. So you didn't have that option.
But then then adjust the depth. Like, so you should just bank on the fact, Sean, that somebody on this team is probably going to get injured, right? At some point, you don't have to be like super precise about it. Like we know for a fact it's going to be Imanaga. We know it's going to be Porter Hodge who gets injured again. Just go get somebody to back up everybody.
And that's why, Kyle, on this list that I have here, I have 2 guys that I think really would fit that bill in Duran, which is not on this list, and Jacob Bird. Duran is on this list. I would love Duran, and I think Minnesota's ready to throw in the towel, as is Kansas City, and Colorado already should be throwing.
Sean, so for me, to the Cubs to go all in, for me, all in would be both those pitchers from Miami and both those relief pitchers you have on this list. You do that, you're competing with the Dodgers and the Mets and the Yankees and the Phillies, 100%. Now you're talking about a completely different team. You're talking. You have changed the entire outlook of your team if you had 4 stud pitchers at the trade deadline. You're talking about a totally different team. But unless they make those moves, which I just have never seen the Cubs do anything like this in my life. I've never seen them do this. I mean, Sean, every time the Cubs were like, we might win this division, let's go get Isaac Paredes, or let's go get what's his name that's on the Phillies now, Nick Castellanos, or it can't be one of those moves. It can't be one of those moves. It can't be, because it can't be Mitch Keller. That's not going to do anything for you. If you go get Mitch Keller, you're trading away part of your farm system to be the exact same team you are right now. That's dumb. That's not going to win a World Series. If you're going to make moves to win a World Series, then act like the Yankees, act like the Dodgers, act like the Mets. Go get top of the line, Sean, I expect them to go get guys at this trade deadline who are better than the guys they already have here. Guys who are better than Daniel Palencia, guys who are better than Porter Hodge, guys who are better than Jamison Taillon. Not Jamison Taillon and Porter Hodge. Go get guys who are better than them. Be the Cubs. Be the Chicago Cubs.
Really quick, John said he doesn't know the minor league system that well. So, John, in the parentheses, I'm sure you figured this out because you're an intelligent individual. That's where they rank in the Cubs system. So, in this trade, they give away the number 1, number 11, number 14, and number 21 prospects within their organization. And then, obviously, Ben Brown, who has been up and down for the Cubs, who I still personally believe in myself.
So do I, but Ben Brown's another one of those guys where you're like, hey, listen, if you're chasing a World Series, Ben Brown's the guy who's developing right now. You don't have time for 7 guys on the roster to develop. You can't have Matt Shaw developing, Ben Brown developing.
No, I'm with you.
PCA going through his ups and downs. You got to get guys who have proven that they can play in Major League Baseball and they're clutch when the playoffs get here. And you got to you need to add those guys to this roster. And I would even consider adding a third baseman, like I said, Sean. If you're really going all in, if you're like, we're going to win a World Series this year, then go all in. If you're not, don't quick, pussyfoot and don't half-ass it, because then you're just screwing your future for nothing.
What would you think about bringing the Candyman back, seeing that he was just DFA'd the other day?
I think that people have talked about it. I think he was signed, wasn't he?
Was he? I don't know. I don't know.
Bruce, you can look that up for us, see if the Candyman's been signed, Jose Candelario, but I'm pretty sure he was signed.
Oh, I'm looking right now.
But I wouldn't like that, Sean. That, to me, that's just it's another piece of duct tape that's going to fall off eventually. I mean, he's not game changing. He's not going to. Yeah, if they somehow landed Bregman,
he's not signed yet.
If they somehow could trade for Bregman, then you're talking. I mean, that is the best offense in baseball. It's not even a question. You signed Bregman, that's the best offense in baseball. It's not even a question. They're better than the Dodgers.
Oh yeah, he's not signed yet. I wasn't too big. I wasn't really going to get excited about that.
I would not be. That would be a Cubs move, though, wouldn't it?
Yeah, it would. And Bruce, you're looking at Mason Miller. Mason Miller's had a tremendous downfall this year. I believe Mason Miller is rocking almost a 5 earned run average.
Not to mention, they've already said they're not going to trade him for some reason. They love that guy. They're not. He's not going anywhere. We're not. They said we love.
485 earned run average, and he's given up in his last bunch of starts, given up 4 or 5 runs. He was up to 555, so getting it down to 485 is a step in the right direction for Mason Miller at this moment. And at the same token, Jacob Bird, his last 2 outings, he's given up 4 runs. He gave up 3 runs the other day in the 8th inning to the Yankees. So he went from a 117. He's ballooned up a little bit to I think it was 220 or something. But still, you look at the overall body of work. Relievers are going to have ups and downs. So we got some people here in the chat. So Kyle, we're going to get to this because there's some people out here that, especially Jimmy, that want to get to this. So we're going to hit this really quick. Just a little fun exercise. I saw them doing it yesterday on Cubs post game. So I was like, let's come up with something. So Kyle, if we're handing out team MVP in chat, please chime in on this and let us know what you're thinking. Who would you give halfway through the season? As we said, the Cubs are 48-34, so 2 games up in the NL Central. Team MVP. Who would you go with there, Kyle?
Pete Crow Armstrong.
PCA. Can I go two people here? Can I go two people here?
Well, you might take one of mine for the most surprising, or
you know what? I'll give you one, and I'll stick with PCA as well. Because I think we're going to have the most surprising be the same, and that was going to be my other team MVP. I have a feeling.
Well, go ahead, Sean. Give your most surprising, or we could say it at the same time if you want.
Hold on. I'll do this. And you tell me if you agree or disagree.
Yep, that's the guy.
Yeah, I can't go any other direction. I mean, this guy, and as this graphic shows, I mean, could you have imagined a guy stepping up like this guy has since Shota went down? I mean, and, ramping up. Well, the Cubs over their past couple of weeks have been going through a little bit of a funk. He got better. He's become a stopper.
I love Matthew Boyd. I absolutely love Matthew. And you know what, you guys? You guys know on this podcast, I'm the first to eat my own words. I have no problem telling you when I was wrong. When they made that signing, I did not like it. $29 million, I felt was too much for a guy who'd been inconsistent. But man, when Matthew Boyd is pitching well, and if you look at his career, he's had a couple of seasons with sub 3 ERA. When he's pitching well, he is amazing. And I think he's found a home here in Chicago, and I think he loves it here. And I think he's going to continue to be amazing. He might even get better. There is a chance, there's opportunity for Matthew Boyd to get better than he's already been, which is scary for other teams because he's been amazing. I love him. Sean, and he's your run stopper. Every time the Cubs are getting their asses whooped for 4 or 5 games in a row, Matthew Boyd comes in, and when you don't allow the team to get a run, that team's not going to win. And he's shutting everybody down.
I think we might be in agreement here too. Most disappointing player. I'll let you go first.
It depends on what you're talking. I mean, does he have to be like a guy who's been on the major league roster all year?
No.
I mean, my most disappointing situation for the Cubs is
that we counted on.
Jordan Wicks is my disappointing player.
Jordan Wicks.
I mean, this guy should be a part of this rotation. He was the number 9 pick in the draft. He should be a part of this rotation. We shouldn't be having these conversations about starting pitching, but here we are because I don't know what the hell is going on with Jordan Wicks. I've read so many articles that are all over the place. Some people are like, yeah, he's pretty much done. Some articles are like, no, he's just had an injury. He's working his way back. He's going to be a good pitcher. It's all over the place, man. Nobody knows what Jordan Wicks is. Nobody. But he should have been a part of this rotation, Sean. He was your number 9 pick in the draft. You could have drafted somebody else.
I wanted to put Swanson here, but it's something that
I think Swanson he's exactly who I thought he was.
For me, this isn't a player. It's more of a collective, and I'm going to say the most disappointing players would be the Cubs bench between Brujan, Birdie, and Turner. It's been a collective, just disaster, and this is something, a couple of minor moves that the Cubs could make to shore up that bench because these guys have been nothing short of sucks for the Cubs, dude.
Sean, what do you think of Bruce's list here? I like this. This is a good list.
PCA and Sal, most surprising Void, most disappointing player, Ben Brown, Craig Counsell, B+. I'm not going to go with Ben Brown because, like I stated last week when we were on this very show, I think Ben Brown's going through rookie things, and I think a lot of these problems would have been solved last year if he didn't have that mysterious, crazy, strange neck injury where he would have been able to pitch through some of these bumps, bites, and bruises that he's going through as a professional this year. It's, again, the same trajectory. You've seen the stuff. You know he has front-end stuff for the Cubs. You go inside the metrics. The metrics are actually pretty good. The results haven't caught up to the metrics, but I personally still believe in Ben Brown, and I don't want to put disappointing player on a developing player. So that's just me, but I respect Bruce's decision on that as the 5th starter for the Cubs rotation.
No, mine's Jordan Wicks, and it's not going to change. That guy should.
No, can you really hold it against him because he's been dealing with 3 injuries, and now that he's back and.
Yeah, but Sean, even when he had the minor league stints when he was recovering, I mean, he was like historically bad. like historically bad, dude. Like I've seen pitchers who were never even meant to make to the major league roster have been much better than Jordan Wicks was. He was historically bad. I mean, Sean, a guy who was a first round pick, and I know the baseball draft is kind of a crapshoot, but usually like Paul Skeens was a first round pick. I mean, all these guys who are first round picks, generally they end up being pretty good in baseball at some point. Cade Horton was a first round pick. He's done everything he's been asked to do. He's exactly what we expect him to be. In 2 or 3 years, he's going to be an absolutely amazing player. How come we can't get there with Jordan? I mean, we can't even get to Jordan Wicks as a number 3 in your rotation. We have no idea. Jordan Wicks might be a cut. He might be cut off this roster next year. That's insane, dude.
Brandon has PCA without a question as team MVP.
I mean, PCA might be the league MVP, guys. He's got to be the team MVP.
Yeah, no, he's my team MVP.
Yeah, at the end of the season, his WAR is going to be like 9.
And here, I'll be honest. And we can agree to disagree on this one, but I'm with Bruce. If it wasn't PCA, it would probably be Suzuki for me. Quite possibly.
Mine would be Kyle Tucker.
And we're gonna here. You know what? And here, I'll show this. I had this. I forgot to put this up a little bit ago. This is kind of why I would put Suzuki up there. I would even possibly put Nico Horner up there because he's second in baseball in defensive runs saved. He's obviously hitting 408 with runners in scoring position. But the thing, and I meant to throw this up when we were talking about Tucker earlier, the 265 with runners in scoring position really pisses me off with Tucker. You want to make $600 million, you got to get into that 400 to 350 range, like 325 range, even 321. You got to get up there, man. That's a little bit low for me and kind of disappointing for me anyways. And that's kind of why I would put Suzuki in front of him, because he's tied for the league lead in RBIs. He's tied for he's got 21 home runs. He's hitting 325 with runners in scoring position. I know, Kyle, you gave me that stat about clutch hitting with him the other day, and he's not been one of the best in baseball at it. But over the past couple of weeks, he seemed to progress in that stat. For me, anyways, not for everybody.
I think it's just a game of averages, and he's going to have weeks where he's really good, and he's going to have weeks where he's really bad, and that's just baseball. That's what it is. But, yeah, I mean, if you look at the clutch numbers, obviously not just runners in scoring position, but runners in scoring position, bottom of the ninth, 2 out, like Suzuki has not been good in his career. If you look at it in totality, he's not been good. Dansby Swanson also has not been good. Kyle Tucker's been much better in those situations than those 2 guys. But, yeah, I mean, Sean, I like Suzuki a lot. I think he's really – and you know what – I think the move to DH, you and I were screaming for all year last year, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it took me about 3 weeks to realize, guys, that Seiya Suzuki's not a good right fielder. He's not. People can keep telling me that he is. He's not. Go look at the metrics. He's not. He's not a good right fielder. And since they made that move, he's been awesome. And I think that's where he should stay. And I think for Seiya Suzuki to think otherwise, like, I think I deserve to be an outfielder. Like, why would you want to do that, Seiya? You've been so much better as a DH than you were when you were playing right field every day. Why would you want to change anything? Keep being a good DH and go make a lot of money.
Hey, Brandon, are you saying Michael Busch is your most surprising player?
Probably.
What do we give Craig Counsell? What do we give Craig Counsell as a grade? What would you give him halfway through this season as a grade?
I'll give him a solid B.
Solid B.
Sean, one thing that really pisses me off about Craig Counsell, and I will say this until the cows come home, till the day I die. This whole we don't bunt thing is really dumb. It's really, really dumb because teams have been doing this since 1845 and it brings home runs. Why they didn't bunt Dansby Swanson home yesterday when he was on third base after PCA hit that rocket to first and was out. Why they didn't just bunt him home? Like, hey, you know what? Let's stop messing around. We don't want to walk out of this inning with no runs. Just bunt his ass home. It's ridiculous. And the other day, Sean, I think it was they had bases loaded, 1 out. And Matt Shaw came up, and Matt Shaw's been struggling at the plate. We all know that. He's a rookie. He's going to have a struggle. Why wouldn't you bunt there, too? It just doesn't make sense. Just bring a run home, Craig. You don't have to score 10 runs on every inning. Bring a run home. Make the Houston Astros start wondering if you're better than they are. Like, man, the second inning, the Cubs already got a run on the board. Like, don't do this thing where you're like, I refuse to bunt just because it's not a good look in baseball. Like, I don't give a shit. I don't care. We're sacrificing it out. But, yeah, we're also scoring a run, which for the Cubs lately has been much harder to find. So score the run. Just bring the run home. And then Sean, the questions marks we've had about him bringing guys in, like burning Daniel Palencia when you're down by 4, burning Porter Hodge when you're down by 3. I don't understand that. I'm sure Craig Counsell, if you asked him, has a really good reason as to why he's doing that. But from the outside looking in, I give him a B.
I'm a B too. I wanted to go B plus, but I would have been a B plus if he would have moved Swanson down a couple of weeks ago, because I do feel leaving Swanson in that 5-hole, hitting 170 with one batting average of 143 with runners in scoring position. And you have Nico Horner, who is leading baseball in runners in scoring position. I think it cost the Cubs in a couple of key spots. It might have cost them a couple of games. And the refusal to do that has just been really weird, because when you look at Dansby Swanson anywhere else in the lineup, he's hitting 250 to 270. So get him out of the damn 5-hole. And it's just been so frustrating that he hasn't made that move. It's like, come on, dude.
Sean, this is where that clutch graph comes into the conversation. Like if you look at it, so Dansby Swanson, guys, was the 5th worst player in all of baseball in clutch hitting situations. So not just runners in scoring position. You're talking about game on the line, tied, 8th inning, 9th inning, clutch at bats. So basically what every at bat's going to be in the playoffs. Every single at bat's going to be a clutch at bat in the playoffs. So if Dansby Swanson's ranked 5th worst in all of baseball in clutch situations, why would he be in your 5-hole? That doesn't make sense. And there's nothing you could do to convince me otherwise. Here's another thing I have to say about Craig Counsell. I don't know, Sean. Sean, maybe you can explain this to me, because I've been watching baseball for a long time, and I still don't know who makes the decision. Whose decision is it to bring up minor leaguers? Is that Craig Counsell or is that Jed Hoyer? Is that a combination?
I think it's a combination. I would
So
imagine.
I want to be a fly on the wall in the conversations in the room when they're like, "Hey, do you think we should bring Luke Little up?" I would love to hear the response. Like, no. Why? I want to know the response. I would love to know the response, because I just don't think there's anything else Luke Little can do down there to prove that he belongs in Major League roster. Now, listen, guys, I understand Luke Little has problems with walks. I get it, but the only way to get him to adjust and get better is to learn, just like Kate Horton's doing, just like Matt Shaw's doing. At some point, you got to bring him up here and let him learn on the job.
So, Kyle, I just Googled it, and it says Major League Baseball, the final decision to call up a player from the minor leagues usually rests with the general manager, with significant input from the manager, minor league manager, and scouting staff. The GM is responsible for balancing the short-term needs with long-term health of the organization. The GM ultimately makes the call considering various factors and weighing opinions of others.
Yeah, and that makes sense, because you run out of options, right? Like, so you can only bring a guy up so many times. So it's up to the general manager to be like,
I
hey,
do know this.
If this guy comes up, he's got to stay up.
I do know this. Luke Little, I believe, is down. He's got 2 options left. So they may be waiting for the right opportunity to make that call.
I mean, Sean, if I said to you right now, and I don't want to get back in the Jed Hoyer conversation. Obviously, you just told us that this is not Craig Counsell's decision. Yeah. But if I asked you right now, Sean, what does Riley Martin have to do to make this Major League roster? What would you say? What would your response be?
Well, you know what? Let's take a trip down on the farm here, Kyle, because we got some numbers here.
I mean, it's astonishing. Riley Martin's numbers are astonishing.
Now, I will say this. His last 2 outings, he has given up 4 runs.
I saw it. But I mean, he's given up 2 months without allowing a run. Dude, the best pitchers in baseball give up runs. I mean, every great Mariano Rivera gave up runs. It happens. That's part of baseball. Nobody's perfect, but I mean, what you're looking for is consistency. You're not looking for perfection. You're looking for consistency. And Riley Martin went 2 months without allowing a hit. What's the consistency? Where are you looking at?
When you want to look at this stuff, you kind of want to look at opposing batting average, and you want to look at the whip. And when you look at Luke Little and you look at Riley Martin, as you can see on the graph, they're both phenomenal. Both around 1, both 1.9 or 0.93 and 1. The innings pitched are up. The earned run averages are fantastic. And for me, and I just threw Jackson Wiggins on there because I wanted. These are his numbers in Double-A. He's flying through our organization.
Sean, to me, he's on that untouchable. I know you don't.
Jackson Wiggins better be on that untouchable
Yeah,
list.
that guy. I mean, this is a guy you're talking about. He could be your ace. I mean, this is a guy who could be the guy we've been looking for the last since John Lester left, right? This could be him. And I love Justin Steele and I love Shota Imanaga, but they're not John Lester.
Brandon has Michael Bush as the most disappointing player on the Cubs. I mean, I don't know that I agree with that one at all, but
yeah, Michael Bush has been awesome.
Michael Bush has been pretty goddamn awesome, man.
Michael Bush is really good in clutch situations, man.
Yeah.
He's really good when the heart is pounding. I think he likes it. I honestly think he likes it. I will say, Vernon, Michael Bush does struggle with left-handers, but it's not as bloated as the media makes it sound. Like if you read articles about him, you're like, oh my God, this guy's the worst batter in the history of baseball against left-handers. It's not as bad as you think.
He's struggling.
It's clearly worse than when he's batting against right-handers, but it's not as bad as you think.
Yeah, and you know what? If you don't play him against those guys, he's never going to get better.
I'll take Michael Bush against a left-hander than Dansby Swanson versus anybody.
You got that right. And really quick, as we're halfway through the season, and some of these guys that we were talking about could possibly be on the move in some of these big trades. You see Owen Casey sitting there, 263 batting average, 876 OPS, 12 dingers, 18 doubles. Ballesteros, I don't think is going anywhere. You see Kevin Alcantara, 8 dingers, 16 doubles, 9 stolen bases. So if you double these numbers, these guys are all having pretty good seasons in AAA. Jonathan Wong, 9 home runs, 11 RBIs, 315 plate appearances, and 865 OPS. I mean,
are those RBIs or doubles?
He's got 11 doubles.
All right. Yeah. I mean, Sean, there's the future of your team right there.
Yeah.
Those are the guys right there that you expect to be making major impact on this roster in the next 3 or 4 years. So this is what it's back to the same conversation. Like who do you choose, right? Who's the odd man out?
But Kyle, I have to go back to your biggest disappointment of the year and say he's back. He's back off.
So, man.
He's back. Well, he's back off of injury. This is his first. He's only had 2 starts. Yeah, obviously they're working him in slow, as you can see. 3 inning. The bottom was his first game back. 3 innings pitched, 1 hit, 0 runs, 0 walks, 4 strikeouts, 42 pitches, 30 for strikes, 7 whiffs, and he followed that up. He generated 13 whiffs, 59 pitches, 44 for strikes, struck out 6, walked 1, 1 run, 1 run, 3 hits, 4 innings pitched. So, hopefully this is the Jordan Wicks that we're going to see moving forward.
Sean, do you think the Cubs have decided that he's going to be their long inning reliever like Colin Ray and what's his name? Guy from the White Sox. I don't know. I'm drawing a blank right now, but
Chris Flexen.
Yeah, I mean, do you think that ultimately that's where they see Jordan Wicks in the majors as one of those guys who, like, you're having a bullpen day or somebody in your team got hurt or you're beating the shit out of somebody in the 5th inning and you could just bring him in to finish the game because you're up by 10 runs? Do you think that's where probably you're slotting Jordan Wicks in the future? Because, I mean, if you look at those numbers, Sean, I don't know if it's just due to the injury, but the fact that he's pitching 3 innings, 4 innings, 3 innings,
I think it's because they're working him back in because he hasn't pitched since.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I'm asking because I feel like every time he gets through the 3rd time through the order, Jordan Wicks starts to get beat up a little bit. So maybe they just think he's kind of a 2-inning pitcher.
Yeah, and you know what? I don't know if the Cubs know yet. I really don't. But you know what? If that's your guy that you're bringing in to bridge the gap, I think wasted a 1st-round pick if you thought he was a front-end starter. But if he's a dominant bridge gap guy who has comes in the 6th, works the 6th and 7th, and has a lifetime earned run average of sub 2, worth the 1st-round pick, I guess. Yeah,
and real quick, I just want to get some of these comments. Brennan said, I thought Bush would make a major stride. I know he hasn't been bad, but I do think he's reached his ceiling. And then John says, Major League first basemen need to be top 300-400 in your lineup. Bush isn't quite there yet, but he's not horrible by any means. Guys, I don't think Michael Bush has reached his ceiling. I think Michael Bush is one of those guys who's a very good baseball player. Like, he's just good at the game of baseball. He's not a star. He's just a superstar. He's just very good at baseball. And I think he's going to be one of those guys who becomes very consistent. A very, very consistent hitter in the major leagues. I think once the game slows down for a little bit and he's seen enough left-hand pitchers, like Sean said, there's only one way to get better at something. You have to practice and keep doing it over and over and over again. I think by this middle of the season next year, Michael Bush is going to be one of the most consistent players in baseball. I think he's just always going to be that guy you can rely on. I don't think he's going to be the guy who hits 50 bombs or has 140 RBIs, but I think he's going to be a very consistent player for the Cubs for a couple of years to come here now.
And just so we know,
and he's really good at first base too.
Among first basemen in baseball, I just looked up his ranks. He's 4th in slugging, he's 5th in OPS, he's 4th in ISO, he's 5th in barrel percentage, he's 6th in RBIs, and he's 5th in WRC plus.
Well, Sean, and that's RBIs. The rest of them are just your numbers no matter what, right? But the RBIs, he hasn't played every day, so he would be higher than that. Michael Bush would be higher than that.
Here, and since June 1st, he's 18 for 55. 327 batting average, 5 home runs, 14 RBIs, a 1.103 OPS, 9 walks, and 8 strikeouts. I you guys know, Kyle, you know how much I love Michael Bush.
I love Michael Bush too. I'm a big fan of signing guys who were minor league player of the year. And I know a lot of people are like, well, it's baseball, man. Who gives a shit? I give a shit, because if you can dominate at AAA, you can eventually learn how to group. You can be groomed to dominate in the major leagues. And I think Michael Bush is just in the middle of that transition period where he went from the best player at AAA to, at one point, he's going to be one of the best players on the Cubs team. I think he's well on his way. You guys people are so, Sean, look at the patience people give Matt Shaw at PCA. But then people talk about Michael Bush and they're like, it's just not as advertised. Like, you guys, this is like, Sean, how many games has he played in the majors?
Second season. So
yeah, but he hasn't played every day, so
no,
it's not even a full season. It's not even a full. So why do we give PCA a year and a half to get good, but Michael Bush is like, because you were the minor league player of the year, you need to be better right now. Like, no, everybody has to have that time to adjust. Everybody needs to be given the same allotted amount of time to adjust. I know Brennan just said, Sean, 148 versus lefties, but like we talked about, there's only one way to learn, man. You got to keep going, keep doing it. Keep doing it over and over until it gets better. Yeah, you just got to do it until you get better. I think a lot of what some people are saying is Michael Bush is incapable of hitting lefties. I just think Michael Bush needs to
I don't agree with
get better at hitting lefties. I think he needs to practice more, and eventually he will hit lefties. Now, Brennan, John, Michael Bush is always going to be better against right-handers than he's lefties. Always. Yeah, for his entire life. For the rest of his life, he'll always be better against righties than he is lefties. But I think that 140 average could get to like 220, 230. And that's not a great average, but it's certainly not somebody you take out of your lineup because there's a left-handed pitcher pitching.
No, it kind of aggravates the hell out of me. I mean, if you don't want to start him every day or something, you've got to give him some opportunities. And I hate to say this, but when we move to looking ahead here, we're going to be seeing a lot of Michael Bush, because I took a look at the schedule moving up, and up through next Sunday, they only face 2 left-handers.
Look at this guy, Sean. No stone left unturned. Sean's going to look at how many lefties they're facing on the next. That wouldn't even cross my mind.
But my friends, before we get into the look ahead here, I hate to say I was right, because I didn't want to be right, but I get to put myself a notch on the Cadillac board. I think that draws me even with you guys, you and Bruce, for the season here. I picked the Cubs to go 3-4, and they dropped that one last night.
Technically, I've won 3 times, because that one where there was the rain out, I was still on pace to win. I was still on pace.
I'm on the board twice. I think Bruce is on the board twice. So this week, this is going to be a long one, because I'm going to ask you guys. I didn't go.
Wait, Sean, real quick. Look at Bernard's most recent. Bernard, that is 100% a factual statement. That guy's a piece of shit.
Absolutely.
If that guy is ever on this roster again, I'm done. I'm not a Cubs fan anymore. I'm out. The guy is absolute dog shit. He does not belong in the Major League Baseball. He does not belong in Major League Baseball. Why that guy is on a roster in baseball is insane.
You can drop.
He's never been good. He's never done anything good ever. You guys, you want to pay somebody multiple $1 million to go out there and allow 5 runs? I am available. I'm not doing anything tonight.
Right.
Call me up.
I'll take that. I'll take that $500,000 contract.
Yeah, I'll fly to Houston right now and give up 5 runs against the Astros for $2 million right now. I got nothing better to do.
So yeah, unfortunately, the Yankees are. We're going to be off next week, everybody, because of the holiday. We're all going to be out of town. So the Northside 9 is going to take a couple of weeks off, or 1 week off, and we're gonna do an extended look. And I'll give you some pitching matchups, but they stopped. The pitching matchups stopped at the second game of the Yankees series next Saturday, but that's as far as we need to go. And I hate to tell you guys, the first 2 guys that the Yankees are throwing at the Cubs are Carlos Rondon and Max Fried. Hey, Kyle, what side of the mound do those guys pitch from?
And Sean, those are 2 guys who the Cubs had an opportunity to sign, and they could be on the Cubs facing the Yankees. That would be awesome.
That would be great. So let's take a look. We got the Fox game of the week at 6:15, and the Cubs could not throw anybody better on the bump than Mr. Colin Ray tonight. But we do have a returning Lance McCullers, and my friends, Lance McCullers is coming off the DL, as they stated. And he's on MLB, he's on CBS as their starter. I have not seen the move activated yet, but his last time he pitched was June 10th against the White Sox. He went 5 innings, gave up 4 hits, 4 runs, 1 home run, walked 4, and struck out 10. He would be coming into this ball game with a .491 earned run average versus Colin Ray, who I don't think could strike out blind men at this moment. And then the Cubs will throw an ailing Kyle's favorite pitcher, Jamison Tyon, on the hill against Framber.
It's my favorite whiskey. Does that make it any better? It's my favorite whiskey. Does that make it any better?
and I hate to tell you guys this, but Faber Valdez is not only one of the best pitchers in baseball,
absolute stud muffin.
He's also a left-hander.
He's absolutely a stud muffin. The Cubs are not winning. I think the Cubs get swept by the Astros.
So I was just going to throw this out there. If the Cubs can't get to Lance McCullers and put up some runs today, and that's Lance McCullers Jr., my friends, if they can't get to him, say in the first couple of innings, and Colin Ray is Colin Ray, are you saying the Cubs go down in both of these games?
It depends. If the Cubs, if Colin Ray is struggling and the Cubs bring in Chris Flexen in like the 3rd inning and he pitches,
Flexen pitched 5 innings. 4 innings.
I mean, anybody, Drew Pomeranz, somebody to come in, or Brad Keller pitches 3 innings, whatever. I think the Cubs stand a chance. If Colin Ray pitches 5 innings today, 5 or 6 innings, there's no way we win.
Yeah,
this Astros team, Sean, they might be more power hungry than the Seattle Mariners, and the Mariners eat Colin Ray alive.
Well, you want to know the truth of the matter, and it's unfortunate that after yesterday, the red-hot, scorching Astros have won 13 of their last 16. And can I just say this about the Astros? What a goddamn good organization. They get rid of Kyle Tucker. They get rid of Alex Bergman. Yordan Alvarez has been out for most of the freaking year, and these guys haven't skipped a beat. What a top-flight organization these guys are. Who they brought up Trammell. They got Cam Smith clicking on all cylinders. This is a top-flight organization, guys. I'm very impressed with the Houston Astros. Hey, you have to be. They have a 6.5 game lead in the AL West, and in the famous words of our boy Brandon Duplessis, the West is ass, 100%. They're the only. I think the Mariners are like 2 games over 500. Everyone else below 500. But the Astros have seized control of the AFC
Sean,
West.
I'm not denying the fact that they make good moves and they put good rosters together. But the whole cheating thing is kind of a thorn in my side for me personally.
There's only 2 players left though from that.
Yeah, but Sean, it was the organization knew what was happening. It's a top flight organization. They knew that shit was happening, Sean. They knew that the powers that be for the Houston Astros knew they were cheating. As a matter of fact, I'm gonna guess that they probably are the ones who came up with the idea. I don't think it was the players. I think the organization knew they were cheating.
All right, so
scumbags.
if we do this on these first two games, what do you got, Kyle?
Sean, just out of my love for the Cubs and my hope that this thing doesn't fall off the rails, I'm going to say 1-1, just purely out of hope.
Okay.
1-1.
Bruce?
I'll go 1-1 as well.
There's no way they're winning tomorrow. Absolutely no way.
And guys, just so you know, Bruce spends every waking moment at the pool. So when you look at his wrist shining there, you got to take your watch off at the pool, bro.
Yeah, no, yeah. You can look at your face too, Sean. Your face too.
But yeah, it's gonna get dark today. I'm going to a pool party here shortly.
Yeah.
All right, so I'm gonna go 1-1 as well. I don't know how the Cubs are gonna do it. They're gonna have to do it with their freaking bats. Have to do it with their bats. Hopefully they can. I'm very optimistic. I'm very pessimistic, I should say.
Sean, to win a game today, they need to win 11-9.
I agree. All right, next up, my second favorite baseball team, the Cleveland Indians, travel into the Northside. And we get Michael Boyd versus Gavin Williams, Shota versus Tanner Beebe, and Horton versus, I can't remember Ortiz's first name to save my life right now. Russ
Well,
Ortiz?
with that 4.30 ERA, Naga.
Yeah. And here, I forgot, I didn't get a chance to change Horton's. Horton's is up over 4 now. But I didn't get a chance to.
Sean, they're coming back home. I'm taking the sweep.
Kyle, I am with you with the sweep in this series. Bruce, where you at, buddy?
I'll go for a sweep.
You'll go for the sweep too.
Yeah.
So far, we all have the Cubs 4-1, and I hear it. Not only do I think the Cubs are going to sweep. If you're watching the Indians, which I do, I follow the Indians. They're reeling a little bit right now. They're kind of in a funk themselves, and kind of falling into that borderline.
Of course they are, because they're playing St. Louis.
What? Oh yeah, this sucks. Well, this isn't going to get much better, folks. Because that second left-hander that I was talking about happens to be in the second game of this series versus the Cardinals over the 4th of July weekend. And ladies and gentlemen, my birthday is July 4th, and the Chicago Cubs stuck me with Colin Ray.
I don't think so, Sean. I think if Ray implodes today, I don't think that's going to be Colin Ray. I don't know who it's going to be. It might be Kenta Maeda and Chris Flexen. It might be. I don't think if Colin Ray has a bad day today, I don't think he's making that start. I don't. I do not believe he's making that start.
Kyle, I am with you. If Colin Ray implodes today, I will drive.
He's getting sent down.
I'll drive the bus.
Everyone was thinking too.
If he implodes today, Sean, that game right there is going to be Drew Pomerantz and Chris Flexen. That's what the game's going to be.
Any circle of.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. That's what it's going to be.
So I'm going to say this. I'm going to go in this series. I'm taking the Cubs 2-1 in this series. I know the Cubs have struggled against Michaelis historically, but I don't like Libator because he's the second left-hander the Cubs will face over the next 7 days or 8 days up until Sunday. So I'm going to take him a loss on that Saturday 6:45 start. But I'm going to take them. Matthew Boyd beating the former White Sox send-off, Mr. Fetty. And
that's not a question. That's not even Fetty sucks, bro. And Matthew Boyd has been amazing. The Cubs are winning that game. Absolutely no doubt about it. I'm going to take 2-1 too, Sean.
Okay, 2-1. Bruce?
I'll say 2-1. Maybe loss on Friday.
Loss on Friday. Okay, you're going to take the Cubs to beat the lefty.
Yeah.
I like it.
Yeah. Yep.
Okay, so we're just going to continue on this trek. The Cubs will then after that.
Yeah, well, let's not project them if we don't know the pitching. Let's just do these games.
No, we have the pitching. I have the pitching. I have the pitchers. So the Cubs will get the Twins in Minnesota. And guys, I hate to put the Cubs on this high of a trajectory and say they're only going to lose 2 games. The Twins have spiraled out of control.
Yeah, they're not a
They
good
cannot
Yeah,
win
not
a
a good team.
baseball game.
they're not a good team. Look at their roster. It's not a good roster.
Yeah,
If
they-
you take Byron
like Brewers.
Buxton off of that team, they are awful.
Yeah, awful. Awful.
Yeah.
So
They should be down there with the likes of the Rockies and the White Sox because that's another team that refuses to spend money and it should be biting them in the ass.
So to open this series, you have Shohei Managa. You have Shohei Managa versus S. Woods Richardson. We know Managa sitting at 254. S. Woods Richardson is got a 463 wrapped around a 140 whip.
Ugh.
Second game of that matchup, you will have Cade Horton versus David Festa. Ugh. A 540 earned run average versus a 480, both rocking a 140 whip. And then you will wrap up that series in the Twin Cities with Colin Ray, if he's still starting, versus Bailey, over another 5 earned run average and another 1. So you're basically facing.
I don't care. I'm still taking that guy over Colin Ray.
All right, I'm going to do this. I'm going to take the 2 more wins for the Cubs. I'm going to give them a loss.
2-1.
2-1. Bruce,
You better take 2 out of 3 from the Minnesota Twins, bro. You better. That team sucks, bro.
Yeah, they should. Made 3-0. Made 3-0.
3-0. All right. So Bruce is
Possibly. Yeah.
Bruce has one less loss than we
Bruce
do.
has the Cubs up by 19 games in this division at the end of this.
Yeah, please. Yeah.
And then unfortunately next Friday and Saturday, which
Here comes the mighty Yankees.
Yeah.
So here's we could do a watch party when we come back on 7/12 because the Cubs and Yankees will have a 12:05.
Oh, thank God Colin Ray's not
Okay.
playing against the Yankees, dude. Oh my
No.
God.
So check this out. That 12:05 tilt, Kyle, on next Saturday, the 12th, will be Matthew Boyd versus Max Fried.
Ooh, that's a good.
But they will open that series on Friday with Jameson Taillon versus Carlos Rodon.
Yeah, I'm taking Rodon.
I'm taking Rodon too.
Yeah.
So Bruce,
Yeah.
you got 2 games to pick. I'm taking the Cubs to lose both, honestly.
Yeah. Maybe.
Kyle,
1-1.
1-1.
I love
Okay.
Matthew Boyd. I'm not giving up
Bruce?
on my boy.
1-1. So
1-1. Okay, just so we're clear, we're predicting this game. We will be on the air, so we won't have a result. So should we leave it off the list for the Saturday tilt? Because it starts at 12:05.
yeah.
I mean, by the time we get off the air, we might know what they're going to
I mean, we do this at the end of the show, so just leave it on there.
All right.
Sure.
So Kyle, you and I, we're all different here. Bruce has the Cubs at 9-3. Kyle, you are 8-4, and I am once again sitting at 7-5.
Well, Sean, I can tell you this: if they go 7-5, I think the Brewers will be leading this division by the time.
Now, here's the thing, Kyle. The Brewers may be tied for the division by Sunday. And here on the quick look ahead, guys, just for the quick look ahead, when it comes to the next 3 games, the Guardians and the Cardinals, it'll be Gray versus Ortiz, Michaelis versus Sassoni, and Libator versus Allen, and the Rockies will get another guy I've never heard of for the Brewers, Senzatella, Senzatela. I have no idea who that guy is.
Yeah, you have. You've heard.
Senzatella versus Priester, and Marquez versus Patrick. So, well, we are facing top-notch competition. These guys will continue to face bottom feeders. Yuck.
Yeah, but
So-
then near the end of middle of July, it gets really rough for the Brewers and the Cardinals. The Brewers, I think the Cardinals play Padres, Dodgers, Padres, Cubs
Yes, and the
Some-
Brewers.
coming up soon. That's
Brewers
Padres, Dodgers, Padres, Cubs. That's rough. That is rough.
and the Brewers have 3 in New York, 3 in LA, 3
Yeah.
versus LA in Milwaukee, 3 in Washington, which Washington isn't great, but they can't sneak up on you and hand
Well,
you.
if you run into Gore, you're in trouble.
You're in trouble. And they got the Cubs. So you have to really think.
You got to keep the division close to until they get to those, because they're going to go on a. Listen, guys, every baseball team in the world goes through ups and downs. The Cubs or the Cardinals and Milwaukee's been playing a lot of tomato cans. When they get into that stretch, they're going to have stretches where they lose 2, 3, 4 in a row. The Cubs have to keep this thing within striking distance, because the Cubs are about to play a much better competition. So if the Cubs can't come out of this 4 games behind Milwaukee these next 10, 12 games, they can't go, Sean. They can't go 7-5. They need to go at
Kyle,
least 8-4.
Kyle, I hope they don't. And Kyle, I hope out of our list, either you or Bruce is right at 9-3 and 8-4. But I have too many Colin Rays and too many. I have 2 starts of Colin Rays. To me, that's 2 losses. And until Jameson Taillon gets his head back on straight, especially him going against the Yankees, I can't put that praise onto him as of yet. So I'm going to stay pessimistic. As optimistic as I'm going to be, I still think the Cubs are going to win this division, because I do think that the Chicago Cubs are going to make a trade. They're going to bolster the bullpen.
Well, I was going to say, Sean, before we get out of here, guys, there's a good chance the next time we see you, the Cubs have a new pitcher. And if that happens, I'll find a way to get on some way. One of us has to find a way to get on and to break down this new pitcher for the Cubs, because I do honestly believe that the next time we see you guys, the Cubs will have a new starting pitcher on this roster. I really do. So, Sean, if that happens, we got to have like a breaking news, at least like a 10-minute podcast to talk.
I'll be on vacation next week. I'm leaving Monday afternoon and Tuesday morning, excuse me. But I will definitely be on it. I'll be sober in the mornings.
All right, everybody. Love you guys.
Hey, until next week, this is a fun show. Don't forget, here on Monday, we'll be back for the Hallis Hall Hangover. There will be a Barely There podcast this Wednesday, although it will be a little bit of a new look without Jason and myself. It will be the twins taking the time up, taking your time up, and then obviously join us back on Thursday for the bare minimum. And don't forget, next Saturday, there will be no Northside 9. Everybody have a happy, safe 4th of July. Hope to see you guys back in the chat on September 12th. We love y'all. We appreciate all of you guys. John, Brandon, everybody who checked in the chat today. Thank you guys so much. Until next time, peace and love. Stay safe. Over the 4th, keep all your digits on, people. Stay with fireworks, all right?
Yeah.
Happy 4th. Until then, we'll see y'all. Enjoy. Peace.